The Galactic communications network exploded with urgent transmissions. A human warship classification, Dreadnought, had been spotted in the Tanalier restricted sector, an area of space expressly forbidden to all species under the Galactic Concordat of 2487. Senior Navigator Veriska Malavox of the Hexterian science vessel Eternal Curiosity had been the first to report the sighting. Her tendrils trembled as she replayed the sensor logs for Captain Dornax. "There's no mistake," she insisted, her primary eyes fixed on the holographic display. "That's the HSS Nemesis Prime, humanity's most advanced destroyer. What in the seven moons is it doing in the Forbidden Zone?" Captain Dornax's exoskeleton creaked as he leaned forward. "Are you certain? The humans have been model citizens since joining the Concordat. They would not risk interstellar war by breaching the Treaty of Aurelian. The ship's quantum signature is unmistakable," Veriska replied. "And look at this. Its stealth systems are fully engaged. They're not broadcasting any identification beacons." The implications hung in the recycled air of the bridge. The Tanalier sector had been declared off-limits following the quantum collapse of 2341, when an entire star system had been reduced to subatomic particles during a failed experiment. No sentient being had legally ventured there for over a century. Halfway across the galaxy, in the gleaming spires of the Galactic Council headquarters on Xanthoria Prime, Grand Arbiter Ozlithek received the encrypted transmission with mounting horror. His crystalline form pulsed with anxiety-induced bioluminescence. "Summon the human ambassador," he ordered his aide, Praetorian Quilox, "and alert the council. This could destabilize the entire quadrant." Ambassador Thaddeus Blackwood was in the midst of a diplomatic reception when Praetorian Quilox's urgent message reached him. The humans had spent decades rebuilding their reputation after the disastrous Proxima incident. As Earth's foremost representative to the galactic community, Blackwood knew this sighting could undo everything. "I assure you," he told Grand Arbiter Ozlithek minutes later in a secure chamber, "the United Earth Federation has not authorized any military vessel to enter the Tanalier sector. There must be some explanation." "The evidence is conclusive, Ambassador." Ozlithek's voice resonated through his crystalline form. "A human warship has violated our most sacred prohibition. The Council demands answers." Back aboard the Eternal Curiosity, Captain Dornax made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Navigator Malavox, plot an intercept course. We're going to find out what that human vessel is doing." "Captain, the Tanalier sector is forbidden even for scientific vessels," Veriska protested. "So is starting an interspecies war based on insufficient evidence," Dornax replied grimly. "If the humans have violated the Concordat, we need to know why before the Council takes action. The Nemesis Prime is one of humanity's most advanced vessels. They wouldn't risk sending it without good reason." As the Eternal Curiosity adjusted course, strange energy readings began flooding their sensors. Within the depths of the restricted sector, something far more terrifying than a treaty violation was unfolding. On the bridge of the HSS Nemesis Prime, Commander Isolde Ravencroft stared into the abyss of space-time with grim determination. The ship's quantum scanners had detected what Earth's long-range sensors had only theorized: a tear in the fabric of reality, growing larger by the day. "Continue approach," she ordered, "and pray we're not too late." The Eternal Curiosity shuddered as it traversed the boundary of the Tanalier sector. Unusual radiation patterns bathed the scientific vessel in eerie crimson light that seemed to bend around the hull rather than reflect off it. "Sensors are detecting massive space-time distortions," Navigator Veriska reported, her tendrils twitching with anxiety. "Something is definitely wrong here." Captain Dornax had been in space for 63 cycles, but nothing in his extensive career had prepared him for what the main view screen now displayed. A colossal rift in reality itself, spanning several astronomical units, its edges crackling with impossible energies. "By the ancestral void," he whispered. "What is that?" "Whatever it is, the human warship is heading straight for it," Veriska noted. Aboard the HSS Nemesis Prime, Commander Ravencroft observed the approaching Hexterian vessel with a mixture of frustration and resignation. "Looks like our operation is no longer covert," she muttered. Lieutenant Fennec, open a communication channel. Lieutenant Orion Fennec, the ship's communications officer, manipulated the quantum array. Channel open, Commander. This is Commander Isolde Ravencroft of the human security ship Nemesis Prime. Hexterian vessel, you are entering a hazardous zone. For your own safety, withdraw immediately. On the Eternal Curiosity, Captain Dornax bristled at the human's audacity. This is Captain Dornax of the Hexterian science vessel Eternal Curiosity. You are in violation of the Galactic Concordat, human. Explain your presence in the Tanalier restricted sector before we report this to the Council. A tense silence followed before Commander Ravencroft's voice returned, tight with controlled emotion. Captain, I don't have time for diplomatic niceties. That rift you're seeing? It's a quantum fracture in spacetime. If it continues expanding, it will consume half the galaxy within a standard month. We're here to seal it. Back on Xanthoria Prime, Ambassador Blackwood was fighting a losing battle against rising panic among the Council representatives. The humans are violating sacred law, shrieked Delegate Zilfin of the Medusan Collective, their tentacles lashing the air. They must be sanctioned immediately. I propose we dispatch the enforcement fleet, growled Representative Thorne of the Ursan Dominion. The humans have grown too bold since their technological renaissance. Grand Arbiter Ozlithek raised his crystalline appendages for quiet. Ambassador Blackwood, your government's silence on this matter grows concerning. Blackwood's communicator chimed with a priority message from Earth. As he read it, the blood drained from his face. Arbiter representatives, he began carefully. I've just received information that requires immediate Council attention. The restricted zone contains a quantum fracture that threatens multiple star systems. The Nemesis Prime was dispatched to address this threat. Preposterous. Delegate Zilfin's voice rose to a harmonic screech. No such phenomenon has been detected by our science division. Because your sensors aren't calibrated to detect it, Blackwood countered. Humanity's recent advances in quantum mechanics have given us detection capabilities beyond current Concordat standards. In the Tanalier sector, the Eternal Curiosity moved alongside the human warship, their sensors now confirming what Commander Ravencroft had claimed. The fracture is expanding at an exponential rate, Veriska reported, her voice hollow with shock. And there's something coming through. Both ship sensors registered a massive entity beginning to push through the quantum rift, a being of pure energy, larger than a gas giant. What in the void is that? Captain Dornax whispered. Commander Ravencroft's voice came through the comm system, grim and determined. That, Captain, is why we're here. Meet the reason the Tanalier sector was restricted in the first place. An extra-dimensional entity from the void between universes. And it's hungry. Captain Dornax watched in stunned silence as the human warship deployed a series of devices around the perimeter of the quantum fracture. Each device no larger than a shuttle, pulsed with energy that somehow both attracted and repelled the expanding rift. Quantum tethers, explained Commander Ravencroft through the open channel. They'll stabilize the fracture long enough for us to implement the sealing protocol. Why wasn't the Council informed of this threat? Demanded Dornax, his exoskeleton clicking in agitation. Because the Council created it, came the blunt reply. Or rather, their predecessors did. Navigator Veriska gasped, her tendrils coiling tightly around her console. Impossible. The Concordat would never. 146 years ago, Ravencroft continued, the Galactic Council authorized experiments into weaponizing quantum states. When it went catastrophically wrong, they sealed off the sector and classified everything. What they didn't realize was that they'd torn a permanent hole between dimensions. On the Eternal Curiosity sensors, the entity continued its slow emergence, a vast consciousness of pure energy pushing through into their reality like a birth in reverse. Our ancestors only joined the Concordat 60 years ago, Ravencroft explained. We found references to the Tanalier incident in salvage data from a derelict Council archive ship. When our quantum sensors detected the fracture reopening, we had to act. In the Council chambers, chaos erupted as Ambassador Blackwood played a recovered recording from the original incident. Ancient Council members, some from species now extinct, discussed the containment and cover-up of what they called the Tanalier catastrophe. "This is forgery," howled Representative Thorne. "It is not," Grand Arbiter Ozlethek interjected, his crystalline form dimming with shame. "The recording is authentic. Each Grand Arbiter passes this knowledge to their successor. We believed the rift permanently sealed." "Well, it's not sealed anymore," Blackwood replied coldly. "And humanity is left cleaning up your mess while you debate sanctioning us for trying to save billions of lives." Back in the Tanalier sector, the quantum tethers had fully activated, temporarily halting the entity's advance. "The containment field won't hold for long," Lieutenant Fenwick reported. "Quantum stability at 62% and falling." Commander Ravencroft nodded grimly. "Deploy the Prometheus array." From the underside of the Nemesis Prime, a massive device unfolded like a mechanical flower, its petals forming a complex, geometric pattern aimed directly at the rift. "What is that?" Captain Dornax asked, fascination overriding his diplomatic concerns. "Human ingenuity," Ravencroft replied with a hint of pride. "A quantum harmonizer coupled with a dimensional stabilizer. In theory, will collapse the fracture by creating a counter-resonance wave." "In theory?" Veriska's voice rose an octave. "We've never tested it at this scale," admitted the human commander. "But without it, that entity will fully emerge, and trust me, you don't want that. We've analyzed its energy signature. It's the same type of being that destroyed the Arcturus system last year." Captain Dornax felt his blood chill. The obliteration of Arcturus had been attributed to a stellar phenomenon. "That was no natural event," he whispered. "No, it was the first scout. This one is much larger." Ravencroft's voice hardened. "And now you understand why we couldn't wait for council approval. Politics moves too slowly. Extinction doesn't." As the Prometheus array charged, the quantum entity seemed to sense their intentions. It lashed out with tendrils of pure energy, one striking the eternal curiosity and sending it spinning. "Hull breach on decks 3 and 4. Veriska cried out. "Emergency containment failing." Without hesitation, the Nemesis Prime moved to intercept another energy tendril aimed at the crippled science vessel, taking the full brunt of the attack. "Shields at 30%, reported Lieutenant Fenwick, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "Array charging at 79%. Commander Ravencroft opened the channel once more. "Captain Dornax, get your vessel clear. We'll handle this." "He'll be destroyed," Dornax protested. "Possibly," Ravencroft acknowledged. "But that's the price we pay for keeping the galaxy safe, even from its own guardian's mistakes." The HSS Nemesis Prime shuddered as another energy tendril lashed across its reinforced hull. Warning signals blared throughout the massive warship, but the human crew moved with practiced precision, compensating for systems failures and rerouting power to critical components. "Array at 93%, Lieutenant Fenwick reported, fingers dancing across her console, shields failing on the port quadrant. Commander Ravencroft's expression remained impassive despite the chaos. "Reroute auxiliary power from life support on decks 12 through 15. We need those shields." "That'll leave those sections without air in 17 minutes, warned Executive Officer Talon Blackridge, his scarred face illuminated by the red emergency lighting. "Those decks were evacuated when we entered combat status," Ravencroft replied. "The array needs another 4 minutes to charge fully." On the bridge of the retreating Eternal Curiosity, Captain Dornax watched with a mixture of horror and admiration as the human vessel fought against the emerging entity. "They're sacrificing themselves," whispered Veriska, her tendrils drooping in respect. Dornax nodded slowly. "Transmit all our sensor data to Xanthoria Prime. The Council needs to see this, the truth about Tanalier and the humans' response." In the Council chambers, the transmission from the Hextarian vessel silenced all debate. On the massive holographic display, representatives from 100 species watched as the human warship battled an enemy that shouldn't exist, an enemy their predecessors had created and hidden. "By the sacred void," murmured Grand Arbiter Ozlethek, "they're giving their lives to fix our mistake." Ambassador Blackwood stood rigid, watching his people fight. "The Nemesis Prime carries our best and brightest. Commander Ravencroft personally volunteered for this mission, knowing it might be one way." The Ursan Representative Thorne, who had been most vociferous against the humans, lowered his massive head. Why? Why would they do this for a galaxy that was ready to condemn them? Because that's what humans do, Blackwood answered simply. We see a problem, we fix it, whether it's ours or not. Back in the Tanalier sector, the entity had sensed the threat posed by the Prometheus array. Its attacks intensified, focusing entirely on the human warship. Array at 98%, Fennec reported as another console exploded behind her, hull integrity failing in multiple sections. Commander Ravencroft gripped her command chair, ignoring the blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Hold position. We need to be precisely aligned with the fracture's focal point. Commander, Executive Officer Blackridge said quietly, at this proximity, when the array fires, the quantum backwash will... I know what it will do, Talon. Ravencroft cut him off. Everyone on this ship volunteered knowing the risks. The Nemesis Prime's engines strained to maintain position as the entity's tendrils wrapped around its hull, crushing armor plating and rupturing fuel lines. Array at 100%, Fennec announced, her voice steady despite everything. Ready to fire on your command. Ravencroft took one final look at her crew, humans all, standing at their posts despite the imminent danger. She opened a ship-wide channel. This is Commander Ravencroft. In moments, we will fire the Prometheus array and seal the quantum fracture. History may not remember what we did here today, but the galaxy will continue because of your sacrifice. It has been my highest honor to serve with each of you. She closed the channel and turned to Fennec. Lieutenant, fire the array. As the Prometheus array discharged its energy directly into the heart of the quantum fracture, the Eternal Curiosity transmitted one final image to the Galactic Council, a human warship, engulfed in quantum fire, standing between the galaxy and annihilation. 3 standard months after the Tanalier incident, the Galactic Council chamber fell silent as a memorial beacon was activated. A holographic image of the HSS Nemesis Prime hovered above the central platform, slowly rotating to display the warship from all angles. Grand Arbiter Ozlithek's crystalline form resonated with the ceremonial frequency of mourning as he addressed the assembled representatives. Today, we honor the crew of the human vessel Nemesis Prime. Their sacrifice closed the quantum fracture that threatened our entire galaxy, a fracture created by our own hubris generations ago. The truth of the Tanalier catastrophe had been declassified following the incident. Ancient records revealed how the original council had attempted to harness the power of quantum manipulation, accidentally tearing a hole between dimensions. Rather than admit their mistake, they had sealed off the sector and buried the truth. Ambassador Thaddeus Blackwood stepped forward when invited, his normally imposing frame diminished by grief. The crew of the Nemesis Prime knew what awaited them in the Tanalier sector. They understood that firing the Prometheus array at such close range would likely mean their destruction. They went anyway. He paused, gathering himself. That is humanity's greatest strength. Not our technology, not our adaptability, but our willingness to face impossible odds for the greater good, even when that good extends beyond our own species. From her seat in the gallery, Captain Dornax of the Eternal Curiosity watched with his navigator Veriska beside him. Both had been honored for their role in documenting the incident. The Hexterian ship's recordings had become the most viewed media in Council history. I still don't understand, Veriska whispered. How did they develop technology to close a quantum fracture when the Council's best scientists couldn't even detect it? Necessity, Dornax replied simply. Humans have always excelled when facing extinction. The ceremony continued, each Council species offering traditional tokens of remembrance. Even the Ursan Dominion, traditionally skeptical of human motives, presented a rare stellar honor crystal, their highest military commendation. As the ceremony neared its conclusion, the chamber doors suddenly opened. A figure in a scorched human military uniform entered, walking with a pronounced limp, but head held high. Gasps rippled through the assembly as Ambassador Blackwood turned, his face transforming with shock and joy. Commander Ravencroft, he breathed. Commander Isolde Ravencroft stood before the council, alive despite all expectations. Her face bore new scars, and her left arm had been replaced with a prosthetic. but her eyes still held the same unwavering determination. Reports of our complete destruction were— She paused, the ghost of a smile crossing her lips, somewhat exaggerated. The chamber erupted in astonished murmurs as Ravencroft approached the central platform. When the Prometheus array fired, it created a quantum bubble that partially shielded the Nemesis Prime, she explained. We lost 37 brave souls, and the ship was catastrophically damaged, but our emergency protocols engaged. We spent the last 3 months limping home on auxiliary power, communications destroyed. Grand Arbiter Ozlithek's crystalline structure pulsed with amazed joy. This is unprecedented. A miracle of survival. Ravencroft shook her head. Not a miracle, Arbiter. Human engineering and human determination. We built the Nemesis Prime to survive the impossible, because we frequently attempt the impossible. She turned to address the entire council, her voice strengthening. The quantum fracture is sealed, permanently this time, and humanity has learned much from this encounter. Knowledge we are prepared to share with the Concordat, provided the mistakes of the past remain in the past, and the secrecy that nearly doomed us all is never repeated. The council chamber, normally a place of measured debate and political maneuvering, erupted in unanimous agreement. For the first time in recorded history, every representative voted as one to establish the Tanneleer Accords, guaranteeing transparent sharing of potentially catastrophic threats and joint response protocols. As Commander Ravencroft accepted the Council's highest civilian honor, the Star of Preservation, she reflected that sometimes it took staring into the abyss to remind all sentient beings of their common destiny. We came to the stars as the newcomers, she told the assembled council. Today we prove ourselves not just worthy allies, but essential ones. Humanity stands ready to face whatever threats emerge from the darkness between stars, not alone, but together with all who value life and light. The applause that followed echoed throughout the council spires and across the communication networks of 1,000 worlds. Humanity, once viewed with suspicion and limitation, had become the galaxy's unexpected guardians. And in the vast darkness of space, the battered but unbroken HSS Nemesis Prime was already being repaired, ready for whatever impossible mission came next.